GM Kozan, and welcome to the Cozy Podcast, where we stay cozy, we stay curious, and we unpack the system, the strategies, building towards a smoother on-chain experience for everyday users and builders. So I'm Han from Cozy World, and very thrilled to kick up our very first episode. Today, we're starting at the foundation, literally, and diving a little bit into the infrastructure, the layer that most users don't see, but actually every builders count on. So let me talk about our guest. So we're joined by someone who worked very closely with the projects across the Say ecosystem, and she's helping shape and support the foundation that make all of this possible. So please welcome Ayang from Say Development Foundation. So welcome. Beyond my introduction, so is there any information that you would love to tell to our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Han. And I am very excited to be featured on the first episode. Hi everyone. My name is Ayong Kwok, and I have been working in crypto full time for the past 7 years across various verticals. And I currently lead the ecosystem success efforts here at Say Development Foundation. So, the Say Development Foundation is a US based nonprofit. We're headquartered in New York City, in Manhattan, and we're committed to advancing and accelerating the adoption of open source, permissionless protocols like Say. And for those who are not too familiar, Say is a layer one blockchain that combines the advantages of Ethereum and next gen blockchains like Solana. And the result is a fully EVM compatible chain that benefits from EVM's deep tooling, infrastructure, mindshare, and network effects while still being able to offer low fees, high throughputs, high speed, and the fastest time to finality. So, with that, would love to get started.
Yeah, that's a great journey. So, since you work very closely with our ecosystem projects, right? So, what's one thing you have seen recently from a builder or a project on Say that really makes you think, okay, so this is exactly why the infra matters?
Yeah. So this isn't from one project, but actually more broader. We recently launched an initiative to gather comprehensive feedback on infrastructure from the top builders on Say. And the results were actually a little different than what I was expecting, which is that I thought most builders were just going to use the top name providers in each infra categories. But what really struck out to me was the variety of infrastructure approaches that each team was deploying and using to solve their very specific needs. So, this diversity kind of highlighted exactly why infrastructure matters and why I love infra and have been working in the infra side of crypto for years, and why I really believe in this open, composable infra. So, unlike traditional Web 2 environments where you're really constrained by your cloud provider's offerings or whoever you choose, builders on blockchain and builders especially on Say can mix and match the best tools that caters for their specific needs. So, you can choose an indexer that match your query patterns, RPCs that deliver, the required performance, wallet solutions that really serve to your specific users, whether they're very crypto native or you're trying to onboard from Web 2. So, from our perspective at, say, Development Foundation, this flexibility represents the true advantage of Web3, and this is what will drive the next wave of innovation.
Yeah, that's such a good reminder, to be honest, and to hear those exciting moments that remind like the solid back end is very powerful. Yeah. Okay. So let's dive deep. Now for the first question, I would love to talk about the performance. So Say Network is known for like it pushing the limits with the sub 400 millisecond finality and the 5 giga gas throughput, right? A very impressive number, and also the full decentralization. But we know that these aren't just impressive by numbers, they actually unlock the new creative potential. So, from your experience, how do you see the performance are shaping the Say ecosystem today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've joined crypto back in 2018 when Ethereum was hot. It was the ICO boom, and it was the fastest and the best, infrastructure that you had. And since then, I've seen performance evolve from like a nice to have feature to something more fundamental, something more foundational requirement that really enables builders to think beyond what we now call traditional blockchain limitations, right? So when we were able to start having these technological advancements and the frictions are removed, the slow finality and low throughputs are removed, then suddenly the developers aren't designing around these blockchain limitations. They're designing for user experience first. They're designing apps and games, whatever it be, that they actually want. And it's been a fascinating journey to see this, see different builders accomplish this on Say, do and build things that were not possible just a year ago anywhere else. So I like to think of it like building a house. You can have the most beautiful architecture, you can have the most expensive furnitures and interior design, but if you're building on sand or if your foundation isn't solid, that whole structure isn't really going to last. It's going to have issues. And that's what we've learned about blockchain infrastructure. No matter how brilliant your app design or idea is, if the underlying performance can't support this real world usage, the user experience is ultimately what suffers. So, here at Say Development Foundation, we are strong advocates of these fundamentals, these strong foundations, because we've been seeing this play out across gaming, across DeFi, AI, DeSci, consumers, where these real time interactions are no longer a trade off because of performance.
Mhm. Yeah, so I think that kind of performance really changes what us as a project build on Say we can actually build. Mm. And so I can see that every millisecond really counts on Say, not just second anymore. Mm. So let's go deeper into that benchmark performance. So how the projects you are working with, especially those project that they are building more dynamic and or focus on interactive experiences, actually taking advantages of that infrastructure boost.
So, Say Labs, who is kind of the backbone technological supporter of the Say network, recently published Say Giga white paper, and it's really a demonstration of Say's commitment to pushing performance boundaries even further and further than what's been challenged already. The potentials for up to 200,000 transactions per second, all, pushing the boundaries and limits. All very exciting. These numbers are awesome. Something that I probably would have never imagined when I started in crypto 8 years ago. But honestly, what excites me more than these numbers is how this performance really enables an entirely new paradigm of use cases. So, we're starting to see gaming projects process real time player interactions on chain without having to compromise responsiveness. If someone was to ask me about that last year, even, I would think, but Web3 games will never be able to compete with real games, right? Same with DeFi. DeFi protocols are building trading experiences that rival centralized exchanges in terms of both user experience and speed. Now, people interchangeably use these protocols. Even on AI, applications are processing thousands of microtransactions for data and for computation. And a lot of users don't even know that they're interacting with blockchain infra. So, we've come a really long way, and there are many dynamic use cases, and it's only going to continue to grow. So, at Say Development Foundation, this is a direction that we really want to advocate and we really believe in. We're pushing the limits of use cases. We believe that infrastructure should be invisible to end users while it provides maximum flexibility for developers. And that's what these numbers really mean. The, 400 millisecond to finality, 5 giga gas throughputs, that's what it really means. It is there to help builders to their full potentials and challenge innovation.
So I think that real-time responsiveness really unlocks so many things. So even for us as Cozy World, we talk a lot about how to bring those traditional game into Web3, but no lagging, no delay, or make it a smooth transition for even the players. Sometimes they don't even know that they're already on chain when they're playing the Cozy World games. Yeah, built on Say Network.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. I remember when I first started looking at these games, I was like, wait, am I even playing a Web3 games on Say? And it was such a good experience.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. So, well, you talk a lot about gaming already and other use case, but I really want to hear something more specific. So, any really standout example built on, say, network so far? It can be gaming, DeFi, or elsewhere that performance really makes a noticeable difference.
Yeah, I know we've talked a little bit about gaming already, but definitely a noticeable growth in gaming. In general, we are seeing a lot more diversity in Web3 gaming, whether it's with genres or platforms. So, like browser, PC, mobile, and especially kind of the on chain aspects. So, with these improvements in performances, like I mentioned before, developers now have the flexibility, and they not just the flexibility, they have the option to have as much or as little of their game components to be on chain without having to compromise on user play experience. And this is actually really really the core component of what it takes to continue to accelerate the growth of Web3 gaming. So, me personally, I don't believe that every aspect of a game needs to be on chain. But the fact that if someone chooses to, they can, and that wouldn't really disturb the user gameplay, and the user won't most of the times even realize that this is an on-chain game. I think that is such a significant development that I would not have imagined, even just a year ago.
hmm Yeah, same reaction for us as we, the game builders. We totally understand and get everything you mentioned about the performance and the power when making the transition between Web 2 and Web 3 more seamless for players. So, when we let's talk about the new teams, new builders. So, when you're talking about them, how do you typically help the new projects to understand that infra is the foundation, not just a speed stats? So, for example, in case of the on-chain games, so why do they need infrastructure from, say, instead of other traditional servers?
We actually work very closely in supporting both native Web3 builders as well as more new ones, not so native. And here's the thing: traditional servers, they might be fast. They are fast, but they are a centralized single point of failure. And more importantly, they create isolated silos. So when I work with more of a traditional builders, maybe who aren't as crypto native, and kind of question why, my approach is really emphasizing on two big advantages. The first one is composability that Say enables, and the second is the extremely high performing infrastructure foundation. So let's talk about the composability first. When you're building on Say, you're not just building on app, you're also building a piece of infrastructure that other developers can build on top of. And what I mean by that is with traditional servers, when players earn items, let's say, or build characters, that value lives in that studio's database and it can disappear if the company shuts down. We've all seen it happen. And you kind of cry over the puzzle game that you were playing on your mobile that you've collected so many booster items for. But on Say, that rare booster becomes a composable asset. So we can move between games. It can maybe be used in DeFi protocols, or it can even become part of a broader experience. And we're actually seeing a lot of this play out in real campaigns. So there's a lot of collaborations between games and different DeFi platforms for things like quests. There's also collaborations for NFT marketplaces creating special events or campaigns. So these types of cross pollination between vertical is what creates an entirely new user experience, a community that didn't exist in very siloed Web 2 systems, especially in the games. So that was the composability piece. The second part is the high performance piece. This is crucial because, as we keep talking about, games need rapid interactions. You want to maybe cast a spell or trade an item or, finish the puzzle and have boosters. If you can tell, I love these puzzle games. But with Say's, sub 500, 400 millisecond finality, responsive gameplay is actually possible, all while maintaining true ownership and composability. So it's really not just about either one of these, but it's about both. It's about the composability and speed. It's about building an ecosystem where different verticals, including gaming, DeFi, NFTs, AI, all of these can seamlessly work together, and they make all the verticals even more valuable. So I would say this is kind of the approach that I take, and it opens a lot of these builders' eyes to a whole new world that they haven't seen really in Web 2.
Mm, that's very fantastic to hear, and I totally agree, and very love to hear that we can see a lot of interaction and a lot of collaborations in the Web3 space, especially among the say network ecosystem projects, and I think there's a lot of possibility that become doable when the foundation is strong, when the chain is strong. And I also want to shout out that Say Network really have a strong community, and the community is so supportive between even they are the content creator, they are the game builders, or they are from the Say Network also. Everyone is so supportive here. Yeah.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And as ecosystem success, where my role is to support builders of different verticals really success and cross pollinate, it is fantastic because I get requests from both sides. So when we're talking about DeFi and gaming collaborations, it's not really one-sided. It's actually very two-sided, where many DeFi projects will ask for introductions to games, and games will ask for introductions to DeFi. So it's a very collaborative environment where people and builders are so self-encouraged to build each other and grow each other.
I think it's become a culture here already.
Yes, for sure.
Mm. Okay, so let's move on into something more quieter, but also critical layers, which are the RPCs and indexers. So at Cozy World, we rely on these for everything from we need to tracking the quest to keeping the inventory up to date. So players, they mostly never see it, but actually the entire games would fall apart without these layers. So, from your experience working across the SAY system, what actually make an RPC or indexer feel reliable in practice?
Yeah, so we at the State Development Foundation believe that best infrastructure is invisible infrastructure, just like how you mentioned that users don't see this. And that's the fundamentals that we go by. When RPCs and indexers are working properly, developers don't think about them, users don't know anything, they simply work, and that's how it should be. So what I've learned from working with all the builders is that they need infrastructure that isn't just fast, that isn't just high performing, but what they need is that end something reliable and consistent. Developers need to know that their queries will return predictable within predictable timeframes, that their RPC connections aren't going to drop during their launch, and their indexing will actually stay current with the current state. So our approach is to advocate for not only the top performance and top speed, but also weigh equally on consistency and reliability. So, predictable infrastructure enables for better developer experience, which in turn becomes the good user experience that we all strive for. And the best part is the users shouldn't need to know any of this.
Yeah, I think when the infra is invisible, so we usually use this word is magic. So it's really create a kind of magic for users for the experience when interacting with the projects. Yeah. So I also want to bring up something recently. So by the time we release this podcast, I believe that the USDC is already officially native on Say. Very exciting news. So very big news. So can you walk us through that, like why that matters and what impact that will you expect it will have on a broader ecosystem, the USDC?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is massive for the entire ecosystem for say, but it's actually also quite meaningful on a personal level. So I was actually working at Circle and part of the team during the initial USDC launch back in 2018. So it's definitely a full circle of excitement to experience another USDC launch, this time natively on Say. So, well, by the time this goes out, USDC native will be live, but you might be wondering, I don't understand. I thought USDC was already on Say. So, previously, USDC on Say came through Noble via IBC on the Cosmos side, which it works, but it lacked full EVM compatibility that really is very beneficial and needed for our developers. So, native USDC and CCTP version 2 is coming live. And what that means for Say and how it positions Say is a cross chain liquidity hub. This enables seamless transfers across 13 other blockchains with one to one capital efficiency. This means there's going to our users and our developers have more vast connections and be able to tap into these liquidities. Um, so native USDC provides so much more than what we previously had, and we are super excited for how this expands even more creative use cases for builders and really generally improves user experience. For gaming specifically, I think this will remove one of the biggest user friction points where players can actually move value seamlessly between, say, games, between, say, ecosystem, but with other chains with minimal bridging risks or long confirmation times or having to kind of go through many different clicks to find liquidity and bridge things over. And this frictionless experience is what I'm personally most excited for. There are other benefits too. So with Circle Mint, eligible users will be able to seamlessly mint USDC, say USDC natively, and that's just going to help inject a lot more capital from more of traditional finance side as well. So lots of benefits to come. I'm excited for the use cases. It's going to be great.
Yeah, from what you're been speaking and explaining, so it's I can really see that it sets the Say network for even more seamless DeFi, and even I can see some cross chain in interaction there. So it's such a huge unlock, and can't wait to be a part of this movement. Okay, so yeah, we have been covering a lot. So let's zoom back out a little bit to the entry point, which is the wallet. So for most people, this is their first moment when they're interacting with Web3 space. So whether it's a player who just joining the cozy world or a DeFi user pushing over, that onboard experiences make a difference. So from say development foundation side, so how are you thinking about wallet infra, especially to help new user onboard more smoothly?
Yeah. So we think that, like the other infrastructure that we talked about, a wallet should also function as an invisible infrastructure, meaning that users shouldn't have to understand all of the complex blockchain mechanisms, things like seed phrases, private keys, public keys, all of that, in order to interact with the great application. And this really used to be a prerequisite in the past. You know, crypto was something big and scary thing that you had to have a lot of these knowledge in order to participate. But in today's day and age, where we're at the cusp of mass adoption, maybe not. Maybe it doesn't have to be that way. So my philosophy is that users don't really want to deal with wallets, learn about wallets. That's not their end goal. Users' end goal is to use applications, play fun games. So I am personally a big fan of simplicity, and I'm also a big fan of supporting infrastructures that allows for this. So the way we approach it is we want to let developers offer simple solutions. We believe in simple solutions like familiar Web2 login experiences, all while being able to preserve the Web3 benefits, which would be kind of self custodial flexibilities across different applications in the ecosystem. So, with that, there are great initiatives that are happening across the ecosystem to do things like authenticate your wallet with your Google accounts, your X accounts, or Telegram, all while still maintaining the Web3 functionalities and being able to use that across the entire ecosystem. So, with that being said, at say development foundation, we like to think of wallets as a front door to an ecosystem or an app. The goal really is no longer to have a wallet that works, but it's to have wallets that disappear. So I'd love to see all of the users energies and efforts getting directed to actually checking out a cool app, using these cool apps and playing a really fun game rather than kind of exhausting their brain power and energy trying to figure out how a crypto wallet works.
Yeah, that's very encouraging. So simplicity is the key, and I think even just like one or two step more like simple, so in the process really can maintain the user experience in a long term, long way. Yeah. Also just a follow up question. So is say global wallet something that the foundation is actively focusing on the infra level, and how do you see it involving?
Yeah, absolutely. So the cool initiatives that I just mentioned in the previous question is the Say Global Wallet. So Say Global Wallet is a wallet powered by Dynamic. It is embedded directly into web applications. So users can authenticate using the familiar methods that I mentioned, like your Google account, your X profile, Telegram, etc., without having to download all these extra things or have advanced prior crypto knowledge. And from developer perspective, the integration is actually incredibly lightweight. Instead of having to build out your custom wallet infrastructure and deal with all of those things, developers can actually integrate with just a few lines of code. And Dynamic is going to handle all of the complex authentication, the key management, all of those things in the background. So the advantage here is being able to maintain true self-custodial benefits while abstracting away all the complexities that typically scares users and developers away. Um, and we see that from our perspective, Say Global Wallet isn't just nice to have feature. I say that because it's also a fundamental infrastructure that works seamlessly and persistently across the entire, say, ecosystem. And that's what effectively creates the network effect. we believe that every app that integrates with, say, a global wallet makes every other app in the ecosystem more valuable. And what that means is users have one persistent wallet identity across all these different apps they can use. So, across different games, across different DeFi protocols, NFT marketplaces, even DeSci, all of these applications. And that's the kind of composable ecosystem experience that Web3 promised, but hasn't really seen until now.
Yeah. I just want to share a little bit. Like I see that like say Global Wallet is like the first integration for every apps, every games when they first built on say networks and with our experience as well. Yeah. Another follow up one. So where do you see the wallet infra showing up in like real use cases, like DeFi gaming or other on chain identity flows?
I think the real use case really is the most successful implementations where new users don't actually realize they're using the blockchain technology until they discover they actually self custody and own their own assets. It's when the infrastructure becomes so smooth that the ownership benefits become the pleasant surprise, not a stress or like a complexity, technological burden that discourages people. And I say that because we are witnessing this in say ecosystem through infrastructure like say global wallet, um, in a lot in the actual practical use cases. So in gaming, players can start immediately playing with social logins. DeFi users interact with complex protocols using like pretty familiar fintech style interfaces. So this approach where blockchain capabilities actually enhance rather than complicate the user experience, that is the real use case across all these verticals, and that represents the path to mainstream adoption.
Yeah, I can see that. Such a good breakdown, and the actually that simplicity really make the user they feel more welcoming when they're on the entire chain. Yeah. So, guys, that the kind of details that make the difference, and very great to hear this kind of thought from Ayel. So we cover up a lot from the performance, the silence layer, which is the infrastructure, and how the wallet can really shape like someone entire experience. So, yeah, Ayel, from where you sit, is there any part that still feel underappreciated by the broader ecosystem? Is there any kind of that part?
Yeah, so more on a personal level, I think this is across the broader Web3 ecosystems. I think the entire user onboarding stack is still massively underappreciated. I think we're still kind of in the mindset where crypto is still very niche, and everyone kind of assumes that every users who wants to use crypto can figure out complex things like seed phrases, gas estimation, transaction signing. Um, but these things are complex, and the infrastructure to make these experiences seamless and safe isn't where I think it needs to be just yet. So I do believe that there is a lot of opportunities for abstraction layer, especially to onboard non-crypto native users. I mean, I think this is a tale as old as time, but there are many cases where projects focus on like performance and complex consensus mechanisms and a lot of very Web3 native features. The app could be really cool, or it could be like the best idea, but users often hit the walls during their first interaction.
Mm.
So the gap between when you connect the wallet and having that first successful transaction is really kind of where we lose a lot of people, especially the ones who aren't as experienced. But with that being said, I am seeing a lot of promising work in this area on Say. So Symphony, for example, has built out a really comprehensive onboarding flow that eliminates a lot of these type of friction through a lot of hand holding and guiding. And you can actually see this, access this from our onboarding section of app.say.io. I personally really love this. It is a great way to onboard new users, and it shows what's possible when you actually prioritize user experience infrastructure from day one. So today we are still working towards mainstream adoption. And through our work at Say Development Foundation, we believe that abstraction layer is one of the absolute critical layers for mainstream adoption. So, what we need more of is infrastructure that handles all of these crypto complexity in the background, like Dynamic did for, say, Global Wallet, while users focus on actual applications and games that they want to play and they want to use. And developers can actually build applications that they want to build, and that's really our core focus. We are pushing the boundaries, the limits of use cases, and really the
Yeah, that's a
possibilities
great
are
point
endless.
and
I
very
am
nice
every day
examples to
amazed
hear.
by what our
I
builders do,
can
what our
I totally
communities
understand
do,
and totally
and
agree
it's
that we
very
should pay
exciting
more
to
attention
watch it
and more
grow.
shout out to those layer that help make the onboarding process smooth. Yeah, although it's smooth on the interface, but we know that there's a lot of thing going on like in the underface. Yeah. So that's a wrap, guys. So thank you for listening. And those who want to follow or stay updated with what Say Development Foundation is working on, so where should they go?
Yeah, so you can follow us on X. You can follow Say Network for updates on the actual Say Network, and Say underscore FDN on X to stay up to date with the Say Development Foundation. Please visit say.io or docs.say.io for technical deep dives. Check out sayfdn.org for more Say Development Foundation
Yeah,
specific
thanks again,
initiatives.
Ayong,
And
and
I
thank you for
personally
all
am
of you
also
guys for
very
tuning
active in our
in. So,
communities
this is the Cozy
over
Podcast
Telegram
where we
chats.
keep it
So
cozy,
I
we
look
keep
forward
it
to
on
connecting
chain,
with more of you
and we
guys
will see
out
you in the
there.
next episode. Thank you, Ayong.
Thank you for having me.